Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisheshai Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarini Jayo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna and welcome you all to the Bhagavadgita classes from ISKCON Mangaluru. So yesterday we completed the second chapter, right? So wherein we were discussing about Sthita Prajna, right? So we just saw so how does a Sthita Prajna talk, walk, right? How does he live, right? And then today we are entering into a new chapter, which is Karma Yoga, right? So very interesting topic, right? So let's pay our obeisances to Radha Govinda, right? And then today is an auspicious day, so it's Ekadashi. So hope y'all are taking Ekadashi, right?
Yes,
So
Prabhu.
yeah, good Mataji. So um, so usually Shweta Mataji, do you know that on Ekadashis we fast? Okay.
Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. So now, say we saw in the second chapter, Lord Krishna actually touch bases so many things, right? So he actually starts with jnana, and then he goes to Buddhi Yoga, and then he talks about Sita Prajna, right? So he actually, in a nutshell, if we say, right, he has summarized the whole Gita, and then he has given it to Lord Arjuna. Sorry, so to Arjuna. And then now Arjuna, after hearing so many instructions from chapter 2, right, he gets a little bit confused. Okay. And then still he is in the mood of not to fight. Okay. So, and then, so what Acharya says, this is all induced bewilderment. Okay. So he is not, so Arjuna is getting only confused for us. Okay. So that's the reason. So that's called an induced bewilderment. So where he's still thinking, how can I actually skip this war? So now we'll see. Say after listening these many instructions, right now Arjuna will ask Krishna, tell me what to do. So you have instructed me lot many things. Okay. Do you want me to renounce or fight? So he's still in the mood of renouncing. So at any time he gets a chance, he says that okay, I'll renounce. Okay. So and then we'll see say how Krishna actually tells him. So which is best among both of them, right? And then he instructs him what to do, right? So that's all in this chapter. Okay. And then what we should do, right? So the thing is, whatever Lord Krishna is teaching to Arjuna, it is for us, right? So this is all indecision, and then he went surrenders to chapter 2, and then chapter 2 was actually broad sections which were actually, if we segregate them, right? So these are the sections. Okay. So and then so now we'll see what Arjuna is questioning. Okay.
Prabhuji,
So
Prabhuji, I have one doubt. Like, in that second chapter,
hmm,
there is this explanation about the dharma, swadharma, and the other kind of dharma. Can you have some brief? A
yeah,
little.
Mataji will actually pick it up at the end. Is it okay, Mataji?
Okay, sure.
So this is the third chapter, and then now the question Arjuna says, so you have instructed so many things. Now tell me, what shall I do? Shall I renounce? Right. So as he told, right, and then in one verse he says, Durena. So Lord Krishna actually tells Arjuna that you'll have to be away from this uh, materialistic things and to actually cultivate so the practice of Buddhi Yoga. Okay, so now he is asking. So you said that bit. So what do I do? So shall I renounce it, right, or shall I actually take this? Okay, and what Arjuna is thinking is he thinks that Buddhi means intelligence. Okay, so he's saying that to advance in the knowledge, right? So someone has to actually retire. So you actually, so in his case, he's thinking that he'll actually get out of the battlefield and then renounce, practice penances and austerity in a secluded way. So he's thinking that I'll go into a secluded place, maybe a forest or somewhere, and then I'll renounce it. So he's thinking Buddhi yoga is that. So he wanted to actually clear this. So why is he clearing? He's clearing for us so that we common mass, right? So we don't get bewildered and then we don't misinterpret things. Yeah, that's the reason. Whatever questions we have, even more than us, right? Arjuna is asking. So even if we would have been in the place of Arjuna, we will not get so many doubts which he has. Okay, so we'll see through now. So here it is. So Durena hi avaram. So Krishna he's quoting that verse also. He's saying that you told us. So Krishna tells Arjuna to keep all abominable activities of far distance by Buddhi Yoga. Okay, so Arjuna is asking, so you told me that, so what should I do? Okay. So according to Arjuna, Jnana and work are incompatible. So we both cannot go hand in hand. Okay. So he asks the question, so which is better, to work or to renounce? Okay. So that's the question. So this is the whole chapter summary of chapter 3. So Arjuna actually asks, and then we'll see the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna, right? And then the next step, say he goes a little bit more and actually explaining Nishkama Karma Yoga, and yeah, and the flow goes in. Yeah. So this is the section. So he's asking renunciation or work. What do I do? So do I go and meditate or shall I fight? Yeah, that's, and then in the second verse, he's asking, say, tell me one way. Okay, so because now you have discussed at a length all these things, right? So he's asking, tell me, so which is the best way? Shall I pick it up? Okay, so tell me ekadam. So he's saying that ekavada, sorry, ekavada. Tell me which way. Shall I renounce or fight? Is the question. Okay. So this is the first, and then we'll see what actually the Lord answers him. Okay. So now actually the Lord replies back to Arjuna. Okay. So this is the question which Arjuna has asked, right? And then the Lord says that Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Loke Asmin Vividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Mayanaga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. Okay. Here the Lord is saying that, oh sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men. Okay. So basically, there is one set of people who are speculators, philosophical, right? And the other ones are devotees. Okay. So he says that one is basically Sankhya Yoga and the other is Karma Yoga or the Buddhi Yoga, right? So this Sankhya Yoga is nothing but the analytical study of the nature and spirit. Okay. So, and Buddhi Yoga is nothing but to keep the Lord as the center. Okay. So, and both the ways, right? So, either you pick the Sankhya, so the Jnana path, right? So, or you put the Buddhi Yoga, right? So, at the end, right, both will result into one only. Okay. So, both are interdependent parts of self realization. Okay. So, basically, Sankhya is based on Jnana. Okay. And then Karma Yoga is actually or Buddhi Yoga, right? So in that we saw that the ultimate aim is to have Nishkama Karma Yoga, right? And both have different paths, and ultimately both go to the same way. But the thing is, Sankhya is something is is philosophical, right? So you try, you'll do more of experiment, and then okay, you'll find the paths, and then you'll go. So it's like where is your nose, right? So one way is I put the hand like this and then this is my nose, right? So that is Sankhya. And then if you do directly, you show your nose, right? So that's Buddhi Yoga. So wherein there's a Buddhi Yoga is a direct path and the Jnana Yoga is an indirect path. So using after gradual purification in the Jnana path, right? So after going so many uh, places and then moving into one stage to the other, right? You will reach to the Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi Yoga is direct. Okay. So that's the difference. I think we have a small table also where it gives more information about it, right? Um, the other thing is the soul is always active. Okay. And then, so we cannot make it inactive. So like if you go to a secluded place and then try to stop everything, right? So it will not help because soul is active and because our consciousness, right, our consciousness to do anything, right, it needs the souls, right? So the moment the soul is not there, this body has no value, right? And then this body needs so many things then and there, right? So who actually, where does that consciousness come from? It's from the soul, right? So these are actually, if you look at the ladder, right? So Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga are actually two rungs of the ladder. Okay. So, but the ultimate goal, right? So, ultimate goal is to reach the supreme abode. Okay. So, that's the ultimate goal. Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna,
So,
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, sorry for the interruption.
Uh,
I have one question in the 3.1.
uh,
So, why did Arjuna ask Krishna
uh,
like this? If you think intelligence is better than fruitive work,
mm,
but this kind of meaning,
mm,
I mean, from where did he sense? Because in the second chapter,
mm,
as you just explained,
mm,
soul Sankhya he mentioned, and then he mentioned Karma Yoga and
mm,
other things, right? But
mm.
where did he mention? I mean, from where he got this impression,
So,
like
it's
intelligence is better than fruitive work?
so he is actually still thinking. So, Arjuna wants to actually basically he wants to avoid the war and then he wants to renounce. So he's still in the mood of renounce.
Correct.
So after listening so many instructions, right? So there is a
Mm-hmm,
verse in 2.69, right? So
mm-hmm,
wherein
mm-hmm,
our Lord Krishna said that so you'll have to be there is one verse which I saw. Where is it? Durena.
Yeah.
So there is a verse. So he said that this Durena he avaram, right? So he
Correct.
tells that you have to be
Keep distant. Yeah.
keep distance, okay, from the abominable activity. So he still feels that the battlefield is an abominable activity. So that's the reason he's saying that you tell me. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's the thing.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll need someone to read this. Prabhu, do you like to read this?
Sure, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhupada Vacha. Yes, Karma Yoga means karma means action, rotative action. Everyone is working in this world to get some result. Somebody is working in business, earning millions of dollars yearly. Why he is earning? He is earning for his sense gratification. As soon as he has got money, he changes his car, he changes his apartment, changes his standard of life only for increasing. The whole world is working so hard, and the result is the increasing their objects of sense gratification. This is called karma. Karma means to enjoy the result of your activity. And when it is karma yoga, that means the activities which is your occupation, you can engage yourself in that activity, but don't engage the result for your sense gratification, but for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is called karma yoga.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
So this is what Prabhupada says. Okay. So even this is in one of the lectures, right? So wherein, so karma. So Prabhupada says karma means the activities, the furtive activities, which are basically for sense gratification, right? So like if you look the modern day men, right? So they are actually working like beasts, right? For what? To earn more, right? So to earn more and then to have bigger house, right? Bigger car, and to increase the standard of living. So that's all sense gratification. Okay. So if we our whole and soul motto is that, then that is called karma. Okay. But so we all know yoga means to connect with the Lord. So if at all we actually do all our activities and engage ourselves in the activity, right? But for the satisfaction of, if we dovetail, right? So if we are in line with Krishna, right? So then that is called karma yoga. Okay. Say small examples. Like even this is what Prabhupada has also said, right? So if at all, say, if we are doing some business, right? So probably if if we are doing some business, say like you're doing a tile business or you're doing some um, marble business or something, right? So you can give some little portion for the temple, right? So whenever there is a temple getting built, right, you can actually help that temple, right? So you can give some small portion of it, right? So similarly, if at all there is some flower shop, right? So they can actually give some flowers. They can in their range, right? So they can give some flowers or tulsi garland. They can offer. They can give it to the temple. Similarly, whatever occupation we do in, right? So even if you are earning, right? So possibly if we are getting our salary also, right? So give some portion. It's not that so we'll have to give 50% or so. So whatever is possible, right? So we can actually keep something aside for the Lord and then utilize everything. So in that way, right, everything becomes sanctified, right? So we earn, we keep some small portion to give it to offer it to the Lord, and then rest we can utilize. So that is the meaning of Karma Yoga. Similarly, whatever we do in, right? So in every activity, right? So we actually first offer it to the Lord and then use it. If at all it is, if we are consuming everything for ourselves, right? So then that becomes karma. Yeah. So if we dovetail everything towards the Lord, then so that is karma yoga. Yeah. And then this is the difference between the Sankhya yoga and Buddhi yoga. Okay. So wherein the Sankhya yoga is an indirect path. Okay. And Buddhi yoga is direct path. So, and it actually depends on the personal endeavor. Okay. So for Sankhya yoga, right? So we'll have to read a lot of, so to get into this Sankhya yoga, right? So you have to understand by experimental knowledge. Okay. But in Buddhi yoga, it's all dependent on the mercy of Krishna, right? So the other thing is we are not sure of the success because we may not be able to do the experimental knowledge in this lifetime, right? In the age of Kali, we don't have that we don't have that life span also. So our lifespans are very small, right? So so success is there. So here we know, right? So even if at all we fall down, right, we can start from where we stopped it, right? And then we can see the live examples, right? So by association with the devotees, we can actually see how we can actually get relieved from the bonds of material entanglement, right? So initial purification is required actually for Sankhya, right? So you cannot directly take up. So you'll have to know so many shastras, and then you'll have to be well versed with so many um, things. So even in the Sanskrit knowledge and all, right? So you should have an in-depth knowledge. Then only you can pick it up. But it's not with Buddhi Yoga. So you can start at any time, at any age, right? So and then the next thing, what the sloka 3.4 says that not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction. Okay. So nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Okay. So you can't do both, either of the things, right? So if you can, even for your day-to-day livelihood, right? So you'll have to do something, right? So else how can we actually survive? For our survival also we'll have to do something, right? Or only I'll get renounced and then I'll become perfect. Even that's not possible. Okay. So there is a thin line here. Anything which we are doing artificially, right? So it is not good. Okay. So because what happens is if we are doing all of a sudden, if we actually prematurely renounce, okay, because we don't know the path, we have not followed the path properly, and then if we are taking sannyas all of a sudden in between, right? So we'll not know because we ourselves are not purified. Okay. And then the problem is there will be disturbance in social order, right? And then because we are not ripened, right? We know that in varna ashrama dharma, so there are so many varna ashrama rules which we'll have to follow through, or someone has to guide us. Okay. So that you can take sannyas, and then it's not that today I'll take sannyas and then tomorrow I'll change my this one, right? Uh, the varnashrama. So it's not like that. So it's time consuming, and then we shouldn't renounce for worldly affairs or to get the name, fame. So those things will not happen. So it's not good. Yeah. Yeah. Mataji, any Mataji can read this? Hare Krishna. Krishna and Mataji, do you want to read this purport? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, cannot pronounce. Purport. The renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of prescribed form of duties, which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. Without purification, one cannot attain successfully by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, sannyasa. According to the empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyasa or retiring from repetitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayana. But Lord Krishna doesn't approve this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to the social order. On the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord. Buddhi Yoga. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So this is what it will happen. So this is what we were talking to, right? So this is written in the purport, wherein if you are not actually doing this purificatory action, right? So then it will not work out. Okay. So everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired. Okay. From the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So this is what the soul is very active, and then so we'll actually see in the further chapters wherein we'll know that say how do we get this body. Okay, so we get this body depending upon the modes of material nature, right? So there are three types, and all those things we'll get to know. Yeah. So Sankhya yoga is impractical since soul is active, right? So because soul is active, it must be engaged. It needs engagement. Yes, either you engage in this way or this way, right? These are all abominable activities, and these are all which are mentioned in the Vedas. And even here, if you fall down, then you'll go to here. Anyhow, you'll fall down, and then you'll go to Naraka for sure. But here, whatever place you have left in, right? You'll start from there, right? So this is the soul. Okay, when it gets in contact with material nature, acquires modes of material nature. Okay, so this is what it happens, and these are the our shastras. So or Vedas are prescribed duties recommended in shastras. Prescribed duty purifies the soul and from affinities. Okay, so where do we get the directions for anything, right? So for the human life, right, the Lord actually gave Vedas. Okay, so he gave Vedas us to understand our prescribed duties. Okay, and then follow them. So once we follow them, right? So then we'll get purified. Okay, and then we'll not have this material entanglement. Say this material world is for the conditioned souls. Okay, so conditioned souls in the sense whosoever is in this material world is a conditioned souls. Okay, we all are conditioned souls because we were not fit in the eternal world. So we wanted to do some sense gratification. That's the reason we are here. And then this is only an temporary place which Krishna has given us. So he's giving us chance again to go back to our eternal world. So how do we get that knowledge? From the Vedas. So and then we do our prescribed duties, right? We follow the rules and regulations as per the Shastras, and then we develop the consciousness, and then we again we go back to the eternal world. So that's the actual um, thing which we have to do in, right? So rather than doing coming here and then doing abominable activities which are not prescribed in the Shastra for actually satisfying our tongue or senses, whatever it is. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
So this fifth verse, where what I understood, because everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So this is about the taking the sannyasa, right?
No, no, no.
Uh,
It's for all of us.
that's correct. But
Mm.
in the previous slide, how this is leading to an understanding that, can you please go back to the previous slide where Gnana Yoga, what is that?
This is
Next
also
slide,
renounced order.
21 slide 21.
Mm.
Slide 21.
Mm.
Sankhya Yoga is impractical. So how come this is getting an essence from this text 5? I'm not able to correlate. I think you explained this, but still I could not able to digest it. If you don't mind, if you take maybe a little more details so that.
See, the nature of the soul is to be active. Okay. So what do you do in Sankhya or those things, right? So you'll have to renounce your life, right? So here the question is no work. Okay. And then we even saw the graphic example yesterday, like Vishwamitra Muni, right? So, or Saubari Muni. So, can we renounce like them? So, they took the renounced order, but the thing is with a small ankle bell sound, right? So, everything got distracted. So, that is what is being told, that you cannot keep your senses idle.
Mhm.
They have to be engaged. So, where do you engage? So, you'll have to engage in an
Mhm.
higher taste, which is nothing but if you do devotional service, right? So you'll never sit idle. Either you'll be chanting, or you'll be actually cooking, or you'll be doing some seva or the other, and then you'll be always engaged. Yeah.
Okay.
So
But in
if
the
you
second
see
chapter,
here,
yeah, in the second chapter 2.11 to 30, where Krishna spoke about soul elaborately, which was referred as Sankhya Yoga. So there he did not mention, or at least I could not understand, in Sankhya Yoga, who want to take the Sankhya Yoga path, they should take sannyasa and do that, right?
so these
Was
are
there
all
any?
Arjuna's question, right? So because so meditation is not the meditation which the yoga classes teach, Prabhu. So
Right.
the meditation used to happen in Satya Yoga. So wherein people used to meditate for thousands of years. Okay. So do we have that time in this Kali Yuga to do that? No, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so that's a different thing. So these are all we should not actually look at what we are seeing or feeling in our material world, right? So these are the things which even Arjuna said that I can't do this. After that, you'll see that in the coming chapters, Krishna will actually talk through about Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. So wherein Arjuna will say that no, so this is not possible for me. So when 5,000 years ago. Okay.
Correct, Prabhuji. To be precise, my question.
Hmm.
See, in the second chapter, Krishna never mentioned about taking sannyas.
No, he
Right?
doesn't mention, but these are Arjuna's questions. He is asking. So for which the clarification is, he's asking
So,
in the
so,
chapter third, he's asking, right? So shall I
so
renounce
yeah.
or yeah, that's the
But
thing.
Sankhya Yoga means, in his, at least in Arjuna's opinion, taking the
Renounced
sannyas.
order.
Okay.
Taking sannyas and then going to a forest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So we all look this picture, right? Say, what do we actually incur from this picture? Easy as sannyas. Just look at the picture. So you can raise your digital hand also. So that's also okay. Yes, no? So easy as
No,
sannyas.
no, no, Prabhu.
he appears like sannyas by his attire, but by looking into details like he's smoking and conversing on the phone, he might not be a real sannyas, but his attire looks like a sannyas.
Yeah, perfect. So that is what Krishna says, right? So don't become a show bottle. Okay. So this is what say he'll go and sit in some secluded place with wearing those all things, right? And then after half an hour he'll go and then smoke a cigarette. So that's not the renunciation. So if you want to do that renunciation, right, it's of no value. Okay. Because he's not even, because his mind is not pure, right? So he himself is not able to conduct. So what he'll actually give knowledge. So if one has those mentality, right? So if one has got such a kind of thought process, right? So wherein he himself is not controlled. So even if he actually shares the knowledge to others, right? What kind of knowledge will he give, right? So mostly if he even tells, then people will actually think of sense gratification, right? The same thing. They'll also do the same thing, right? So that's the problem. Yeah. So he's having cigarette. So he's not able to stop the urge of cigarette. So this type of renunciation will not help in. Okay. So if you are meditating and then if you get your phone calls and then you get bogged up with the SMS, WhatsApp messages, then what kind of meditation is that? Yeah. So one who restrains the senses of action but whose mind dwells on sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Yeah. So that doesn't help. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses, okay, by the mind and begins karma yoga without attachment, he is far superior. Okay, so if someone, so whatever profession it is, right? Say maybe so one is actually cleaning the temple, right? So he is doing without attachment. Okay, so and then he's doing it for the Lord. So he is far superior. He might be doing a menial job of cleaning the pots, but if he is actually doing it for the Lord, right? And without attachment, so he is far superior than the person who actually does showcase, right? So uh, having the outward stuff, right? So like the dress and all, right? So they wear it and then so they do all lot of gana bajana, but things are not there, so that doesn't help in. Okay, so one has to be sincere, so and be controlled. Okay, so it has been said in this purport, Prabhupada says that it is better to be a sincere sweeper, okay, than an meditator. So who is a show bottle spiritualist. Okay, so that's not good, and then we should not actually cheat them. Okay, cheat the basically they cheat the innocent public. Okay, so that's the problem. We should actually act as per our position. Okay, and never actually try to imitate for the higher levels what we are not, right? So we should not pose ourselves as purified and then all those stuff, right? So that's the reason we follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, right? So here and this is another example, so wherein he is actually King Pratap Rudra. Okay, so we all know about Jagannath festival, right? So this all started long back. And then this is during the regime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. So at that time in Puri, say the chariot was being pulled out. So we all know that Lord Jagannath actually comes out of his temple and gives darshan to everyone, right? So for those 11 days. So while he was being taken in the procession, right? So he was by then the king of Orissa. Okay. His name was King Prataprudra. So he used to sweep the road. So before the chariot comes in, right? So he used to clean that. Yeah. So that kind of renunciation people had in the past, right? So now if we ask someone, right? So someone will say, if you ask somebody, then he'll say that I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm not supposed to do all these things. Yeah. So we have so many attachments, baggages, so which we actually take up, and then we actually feel that okay, so we'll start living in that role, so in and out. Even in front of the Lord, we feel that we are superiors. Yeah. So that's the problem of our education system. So, so pretender is the greatest cheater. Okay, deep in meditation, but his mind dwells on sense objects. Yeah, this we have read, right? If we follow these rules and regulation, right, there will be gradual purification. And if there is a sincere person who is actually controlling his senses, right, so he is far superior compared to the pretenders. Yeah. So perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. So one cannot even maintain one's physical body without working. So here Krishna now says that so you'll have to do your prescribed duty. And then what is the prescribed duty of Arjuna? To fight, right? So he's saying that you'll have to do your job, right? And you should not actually simply renounce. Okay. So basically, in this chapter, what Krishna will say that say you'll have to combine both. So you'll have to work, but for the Lord. Okay. So that's what. So he'll say that use the jnana, but don't stop working. So because he says that we can't maintain ourselves, right? So like if the tiger renounces, right? So will it get the food? No, right? So tiger, if it has to maintain its own body, right? It has to go and hunt an animal and eat because that's its nature, right? So performing prescribed duties is better than not working, right? So this is what is mentioned. Being a Kshatriya, you should actually engage in war and not renounce and go to forest, right? And we should not give up the work all of a sudden without purification of materialistic propensities. Yeah. So if you are performing your duties, right, and then you actually follow the varnashrama, dharma, and shastras, right, you'll get gradual purification. Right? If you're not doing, then you'll fall down. So now, so now, what is that, right? So what kind of work needs to be done? Okay, and what kind of work shouldn't be done? Okay, so that's the next shloka, right? So wherein Krishna actually says, and then he introduces the yajnas here. Okay, so he says that what work if we do, right? So that will actually is beneficial, and the work which causes bondage. Okay, so yajnartha karmano anyartha lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. So work which is done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Okay. So yagnartha, yagna means for the sake of, yagnartha is nothing but for the sake of yagna or Vishnu. So it is for Vishnu. Okay. So basically the word yagna means Lord Vishnu. So whatever sacrifice we do in, right? So in the Havan Kund we do it, right? So that's for Vishnu. Okay. That is called the mouth of Vishnu. Okay. So whatever offerings you give, right? So whatever work we do it, right? So since one has to work in, right? So that's the reason we'll have to in the social order, right? So one has to do sacrificial performances. Okay. So which basically are meant to satisfy the Lord. Okay. So and we'll in the subsequent things we'll actually see in, right? So in the slides we will see about the devatas also. So now slowly Krishna will take us towards the devatas also. Okay. So in this verse, even he says that any work done in the material world will be cause of bondage. Okay. So if we are doing anything in this material world, right? So that becomes a bondage. Yeah. So if we actually dovetail it with Krishna, then there will be no bondage. So work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in material world. Okay. So any work which is not in line with the Shastras causes bondage. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So he's saying that don't renounce and then go to the forest. So if you look Krishna from starting onwards, he says only fight Arjuna because that is his dharma. So there are many pseudo meditators who misrepresent themselves as belonging to higher parentage. Yeah, so this is one thing. So this become from the caste and creed and so the taglines they have, right? They so might be that his ancestor has done that, but he doesn't know ABCD of it also. But he says that, oh, I belong to that family, and then and great professional men who falsely powers that they have sacrificed everything for the sake of advancement in spiritual life. Okay. Lord Krishna did not want Arjuna to become a pretender. Rather, the Lord desired that Arjuna performed his prescribed duties as set forth for Kshatriyas. Arjuna was a householder and a military general, and therefore it was better for him to remain as such and perform his religious duties. Okay, as prescribed for the householder Kshatriya. So the so-called renunciation for the purpose of maintenance is never approved by the Lord, nor by any religious scripture. So we should not renounce simply to actually showcase that I'm renounced and then you gain some material benefits. So or monetary benefits, right? So this is not approved. Yeah. Anyone who is in material world is certainly possessed of the impure propensity of lording it over material nature. Okay. Or in other words, sense gratification. So this material world is only for sense gratification, right? So we'll have to do our sadhanas and then so we'll have to actually practice the shastra, whatever is being told in shastras in such a way that the propensities, the polluted propensities are getting cleared. Without doing so, the prescribed duties, one should never attempt to become a so-called transcendentalist. Yeah. So our work plus divine arrangement, both are combined to get the result. So we should never forget that it's not that so I have done everything, right? So it is someone at the back. Yeah. So here action or work performed, right, for the satisfaction of Vishnu. So no binding but liberation. So whatever we do, right, so there might be small mistakes, so when we do it unknowingly, right, so those are taken care by the Lord, by his mercy. Okay. And the other thing is act under the guidance of a spiritual master. So for us, right, so we are not so renounced, and then we don't know the rules and regulations, and even we don't have time to read the Shastras and Vedas, right? Because there are four Vedas, and then there are so many scriptures which we'll have to read. We have Vedanta Sutra, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, Bhagavadgita. There are so many things to read. So which even if we read in a lifetime, we can't, right? So that's the reason we need someone as a spiritual master who can actually guide us, yeah, and then who can teach us the path of devotion, right? So then we actually gradually elevate and develop transcendental loving service, and then we go back to the eternal world. So if you do sense gratification, right, there will be always good and bad actions, and then this cycle will continue. The cycle of birth, old age, death, disease, that will be there. So this is the yoga ladder. Okay, so this is Brahman. Okay, this is Paramatma, and this is the Bhagwan. Okay, so these are all the ways how we can actually move from one step to the other. Okay, I think this is more or less. So now we'll go to the karma kanda to karma yoga. So if a person is too attached to material life and cannot perform nishkama karma yoga, for them Krishna describes the yoga ladder. Okay, so maybe you can start from karma yoga kanda, and then you slowly actually get purified. Yeah. So in the beginning of creation, right? So the Lord of all creators set forth generations of men and demigods. So this is what the Lord has done, right? So during he has actually sent the Prajapatis and everyone, right? And he sent forth men and demigods or the devatas along with sacrifice of Vishnu. So this is what I was telling, right? So he actually arranged um, this material world with the Vedas and all the things. So wherein yajnas were a part of it, or the sacrifice. Okay. So what will happen is, so if we follow those things, right? So then the nature is balanced, right? So we please, so depending upon our surrender, right? So if we are not able to surrender to the Lord fully, right? So maybe we can at least surrender to the devatas, right? Who are actually holding different positions, right? So like we have in our in India also we have got different ministries doing different things, right? Like education, finance minister, right? So similarly, in there also there are different health ministers. So similarly, there are different devatas who are appointed who actually take care of that particular vertical. Yeah. So in every age, right? So there is an prescribed yajna. Okay. So basically, in we know that there are four yugas, right? Mataji and Prabhuji. So can anyone tell what are the four yugas?
Satya Yuga
Yes, correct, Prabhu.
and Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga.
Perfect. So thank you, Prabhu.
Correct.
So we have got four yugas. So every yuga has got some yajna, some prescribed duty. So which we have to do in that yajna. So in that yuga. So in Satya Yuga, so the lifespan was very big. Okay. So I- uh, the kings and all, they used to live for thousands of years. So in that age, right? So meditation was prescribed. Okay. So wherein you see, we'll read in Shastras that there are a lot of munis or say who actually did tapasya for so many years, right? So take the example of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma, during the creation itself, he did penances for 10,000 years. Okay, to get the darshan of the Lord. And then the next yuga came in, which was Treta Yuga. So which was actually meant for opulent yajnas. So the yajnas in the sense the sacrificial fire which we have in, right? And it used to be huge. So it's not like so the ones which we have now. So it used to go for so many days, yeah. And the investment was also very huge, right? So by doing yajnas, they were so for that particular age, right? So the yajnas were actually prescribed. So and in Dwapar Yuga, right? So you might have heard about Ashwamedha yajnas and all, right? So those were at the time of Treta Yuga. So it actually it needs a lot of money, right? So when Yudhishthir Maharaj wanted to do one of them, right? So after getting the kingdom, so Arjuna actually helps him to get the wealth. Yeah. And then there is Dwapar Yuga. So Dwapar Yuga was temple worship. And then if you look, right, so majority of the ancient temples which we have, right, in India, they were actually built in Dwapar Yuga. So that's the reason you see that the temples are very huge, right? So there are still some temples which are very huge, right? So those were all built because so at that time, right, temple worship was prescribed. So for that yuga, so temple worships were prescribed. And then that's the regime wherein we see a lot of temples which were being developed. And then they used to actually pray to the deities at that time. And then the deities used to respond. Now also they respond, but so we don't have that purity. And in Kali Yuga, right, the age is compared to other yugas, right? The lifespan is very small. Even the Kali Yuga age is also smaller. So now in this age, right? So for the process of self-realization, right? The Sankirtana Yajna is the prescribed yajna for this particular Kali, right? So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So from Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse is there. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Prasadam Yagne Sankirtanam Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedhasa. So this is in this age of Kali, right? So the Sankirtan movement is actually prescribed. That's the reason we actually chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, right? And then we got this from Lord Chaitanya. So who is nothing but the incarnation of Krishna, who came us and then who has given us this mantra to chant. Yeah, even the same thing we'll read in Bhagavad Gita also in Bhagavad Gita 9.14, right? It also says the same thing. Yeah. So if we do the yajnas, right? So what happens is the devatas are pleased, and then if the devatas are pleased, right? So they actually shower their blessings in the form of rain, in the form of whatever it is, right? So and then the nature is always balanced. So that is the actual thing which has to be done. So this is all the sacrifice. Okay. So basically from the Vedas we get the what duties we'll have to perform, and then from there we get the sacrifices also. So what we should do? We do sacrifices, we get produce, we offer it to the Lord. Yeah. So this is the actual cycle. So by performance of yajna, one's eatables become sanctified, right? And by eating sanctified foodstuff, one's very existence become purified. So that's the reason offering to the Lord is important before we eat, right? So when by the purification of existence, so by eating sanctified. Sanctified is nothing but the food which is offered to the Lord is sanctified. One's very existence becomes purified. By the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. When memory is sanctified, one can think the path of the liberation. Yeah. So all this combined together leads to Krishna conscious, the great necessity of present day. So that is what the prasadam which we say in, right? So this is always offered. The devotees always offer it and then take, because that is sanctified. And then we'll see what is sanctioned also in the coming chapters. So in the charge of various necessities of life, the demigods being satisfied by performance of yajnas, they supply the necessities, right? So, but if we enjoy such gifts without offering them, so we only enjoy it and then say we don't care about who is giving, who is supplying all these things, right? Then we'll be a thief. Yeah. So the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So the meat, flesh which we have, which people eat in, right? So those are all sinful, right? So whereas if we actually cook simple prasadam at home and then offer it and eat, so then there is no sin. That's what the devotees do it, right? So they'll become aloof from contamination. So annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava yagnad bhavati parjanyo yagna karma samudbhava. So this is the cycle. Okay, so this is the cycle how things happen. Yeah. So how do we get the grains and all, right? All living bodies subsist on food because we all live on food grains, right? Which are actually produced by rains. And then how is the rains produced? By performing yagnas. And then and yagnas is born of prescribed duties. So, okay. So regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Lord. So where did this Vedas come? So the Vedas come from the breathing of the Lord. So we know this, right? So this is what you see, the Supreme Lord has given us the Vedas, wherein the prescribed duties are there. Somewhere these yajnas are there, rains, food, grain. So from here it will start actually. Sorry, I did the counterclockwise. So all living entities depend on food. Foods are produced by rains. Rains are performed by sacrifices. Where are they mentioned in? These are the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas, which comes from the Lord who himself has spoken. So I think we'll stop this with this verse. So this is the last verse in this section. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by Vedas certainly leads a life full of sins. If we are not following the Shastras, then we are actually leading a life of sin, living only for the satisfaction of the senses. Such a person lives in vain. Okay, Hare Krishna. So we'll actually pick from next verse, we'll see Nishkama Karma Yoga to set correct example. So Hare Krishna, Prabhujis and Matajis will end up here. So next class we'll take up. Oh, my video is gone, is it? Once again. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Guruji, we
Hare
can
Krishna
start.
Prabhu.
Okay, so okay, I didn't realize. I don't know. So what is happening? So even yesterday my video was knocked off. So today
Yes,
also it lost.
all the class you were visible.
Okay, just now it went off, is it? Okay. Mataji, what was your question? We'll quickly take that and end. I know that it's 10
Regarding
minutes.
Swadharma, Prabhuji, Swadharma and Parad means other dharmas which
Oh,
is
okay, in
mentioned
second
in
chapter, no,
Bhagavad
Mataji.
Gita.
So, Swadharma is the dharma of one's dharma, right? So, like for Kshatriya, right? So, what is his dharma? So we have 4 classes of people, right, Mataji? So in this case, the Swadharma of Arjuna, right, of Arjuna was being discussed there. So once Swadharma, so one has to follow the Swadharma which they have in it. So the natural instinct of a Kshatriya is to fight and not to live the battle. Yeah? So that's Swadharma, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji.
So was that the question you had, or is there anything you want to tell? Does that answer you?
Different types of dharma, actually. Different types of dharma. Is there any other kind of dharma also?
So these are the, so we have different types of yogas, right? And so basically Sadharma is nothing but the actions which one has to follow, right, as per the Shastra. So that's Sadharma.
Yes, Prabhuji, that is clear. Then from today's topic, I have one question, Prabhuji.
Good, Mataji.
Like right now, we are also doing studies. We are studying Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. So, is this come or is this also comes in Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga? The some part at some point of time, like this is Jnana Yoga, because we are trying to know the God with the help of scriptures only.
Yeah. So actually, this is with you're getting jnana from these books, right? But you're doing devotional service also. So it's not that. So you are trying to understand the Lord, right? So and either in Bhagavad Gita or right, you're reading the scriptures so that you can do devotion. Okay, Mataji.
Mhm.
So it is jnana plus buddhi. Okay. So now you're trying to go towards buddhi yoga, and then we'll slowly actually get detached from this material sense enjoyment and all, right? So those things are there. But currently we are just sadhakas, Mataji. If you ask in plain language, right? We are actually sadhakas, and then we are doing what is being told to do by our gurus, because we don't know the actual rules and regulations, right? So we are not at that stage even, so we don't understand um, the pure devotional service and all. So that's the reason we Prabhupada has given us a regime, so wherein he has said that if you follow these all things, right, so then we'll cultivate devotional service, we'll actually get into the bhakti yoga. So we are at the beginning stage of bhakti yoga, so, which is a sadhaka role which we are doing, right? So a sadhaka actually has the prescribed duties like getting up early in the morning, doing Mangal Arti, attending Mangal Arti, right? Doing japa, attending classes, and reading scriptures, doing some seva. So doing all these things, right? We'll get slowly purified, and then we'll get into bhakti yoga. Okay, Mataji? Helps?
Yes, Prabhuji, understood. And how can we do more, Prabhuji, like in day-to-day life for
It's all Krishna's mercy and our previous karma, Sukriti, how much Sukriti we have bought, right, Mataji? And then how much is our endeavor. Depending on that, we'll get the mercy of the Lord. So if you look in right, in 1 year, they'll actually get elevated very soon. Say you might be thinking that okay, he was my batchmate, we both studied, but you'll see that say he may actually go, he may move very fast in devotional service, because in his past life he has done some sukruti, and then he's actually starting from where he has left. And then a few may be slow, say maybe, and then we may take time because we didn't have that sukruti, and then we don't have that mercy. Yeah, Mataji. The only thing is we should endeavor and then pray to Krishna for his mercy, and then things will
yes,
come. The only thing is we need to have dhairya and utsaha. So we should have patience and we should endeavor. Yeah?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the answer.
Hare Krishna, Prabhujis and Matajis, thank you for your association. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namo. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, sir.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.